Caitlin Clark isn't on the floor, and yet, the tension around the Indiana Fever just turned electric. The Fever, badly shorthanded, looked worn out and exposed in Game 3 of the semifinals, while the Las Vegas Aces seized momentum and pounded home their advantage. But this isn't just a game recap. It's a turning point, for the Fever, for Clark, and for the narrative of a league built on stars but tested by adversity. Before we dive, make sure to hit subscribe and drop a like. We're digging into the drama behind the box score, peeling back the headlines, and asking the hard questions. Because in Game 3, the Aces found their rhythm. NaLyssa Smith poured in timely buckets, Jackie Young led the charge, and the Fever, without their full roster, looked flat, tired, and vulnerable. The energy that carried them earlier in this postseason was fading. This is more than just a loss. It's a mirror showing how far the limits of depth, health, and morale can stretch before they snap. Backhand index pointing right, stick around. Part 2 takes us inside the injury toll and how the Aces exploited the cracks in the Fever's armor. The Indiana Fever didn't just walk into Game 3, they limped into it. The roster, already battered, was running on fumes. Caitlin Clark was out. Sophie Cunningham was sidelined. Other key players were nursing lingering injuries. Every possession was a test of stamina, not just skill. The Aces saw it and smelled blood. From the opening quarter, Vegas understood that fatigue was Indiana's biggest weakness. They ramped up their pace, forced the Fever to defend longer possessions, and attacked mismatches. By the second half, the cracks were widening. NaLyssa Smith, ironically a former Fever draft pick, became the symbol of those cracks. She came alive in the fourth quarter, scoring back-to-back buckets to swing momentum. That wasn't just scoring, it was a dagger. It shifted the psychology of the game, showing Vegas could seize control whenever Indiana's legs gave out. Jackie Young fed off that momentum. She punished tired defenders, pushing the ball in transition, exploiting rotations that were a half-step slow. Every drive she made told the same story. Indiana didn't have the depth to keep up. Meanwhile, the Fever had moments of fight. Lexi Hull drained a three, faked another, and dished an assist to Kelsey Mitchell for a layup. Those flashes gave fans hope. But hope only lasts when there's fuel in the tank, and Indiana's tank was nearly empty. This is what happens when injuries pile up in the playoffs. Rotations shorten, which forces starters to play heavier minutes. Fatigue sets in, leading to missed shots, defensive lapses, and slower reactions. Bench players, suddenly thrust into larger roles, get exposed by opponents who've been here before. Vegas exploited every weakness. Their strategy wasn't complicated. It was relentless. Push pace. Force Indiana to defend. Attack the glass. By the time the fourth quarter hit, the Fever looked spent, while Vegas looked like they were just getting started. This isn't just about one game. It's about a theme that's haunted Indiana all season. Depth. Without Clark, without Cunningham, without reliable reinforcements, the Fever were always going to be vulnerable. Vegas simply capitalized. For Indiana, the pain is twofold. First, they lost a pivotal playoff game. Second, they had to face the reality that their roster wasn't built to withstand this kind of adversity. The playoffs don't just test stars, they test benches, conditioning, and resilience. And in Game 3, Indiana failed that test. Backhand index pointing right, keep watching. Part 3 digs into the tactical moves Vegas made and how Indiana tried, and often failed, to adjust. Don't forget to tap subscribe now so you don't miss the breakdown. Game 3 wasn't just about tired legs, it was about a chess match. And Las Vegas played it masterfully. When the Aces sensed Indiana's fatigue, they didn't slow down. They sped up. They forced Indiana to cover more ground, chasing cuts and rotations. Every extra step burned more energy out of an already shorthanded team. NaLyssa Smith was the spark that ignited the fire. Early in the fourth, she scored the first 4 points, flipping the scoreboard and flipping momentum. Those points weren't just numbers, they were psychological blows. Indiana, already fighting uphill, suddenly saw their lead slip away. Jackie Young then slammed the door. She attacked mismatches ruthlessly, cutting through defenders who no longer had the legs to stop her. She scored, she created, she stabilized. Her presence in that fourth quarter was the difference between a close game and a decisive one. Indiana, to their credit, tried to adjust. Lexi Hull brought energy, hitting a big three and creating opportunities. Mitchell kept driving, trying to draw fouls and keep the offense alive. But those adjustments were like patching holes on a sinking ship. Vegas simply had too many answers. Defensively, the Aces locked in. They pressured passing lanes, contested every shot, and forced Indiana into rushed decisions. By the time the Fever set up their offense, the shot clock was bleeding, and their options were limited. Fatigue makes execution sloppy, and Vegas knew it. This is playoff basketball at its purest. Tactics meeting stamina. Indiana had ideas but not the energy to execute them. Vegas had both the plan and the legs. And in that equation, the outcome was inevitable. It's worth noting that the Aces didn't even get vintage Aya Wilson for much of this game. She struggled early, missing shots she usually buries. But that's the mark of a championship-caliber team. When your superstar is off, others step up. Jackie Young, NaLyssa Smith, and the supporting cast carried the load. That balance is what Indiana lacked. Psychologically, the gap widened as well. Every time Vegas scored, Indiana looked more deflated. Every turnover, every missed defensive assignment, chipped away at their confidence. Meanwhile, the Aces grew bolder, feeding off each other's energy. By the final buzzer, the strategies were clear. Vegas dictated pace, dictated matchups, dictated effort. Indiana reacted, but never controlled. In the playoffs, the team that dictates wins. Backhand index pointing right, don't move. Part 4 unpacks the consequences of this swing, what it means for both teams, and what's left for Indiana's path forward. Game 3 wasn't just another loss for Indiana. It was a statement game from Las Vegas, and a warning shot to the rest of the WNBA. The Aces didn't just win, they exposed exactly where the Fever are fragile. And in the playoffs, exposing a weakness is almost as dangerous as exploiting it. For Indiana, the most obvious consequence is simple. They're now on the brink. Down 2-1 in a best-of-5 series, their next game is essentially a do-or-die. Lose, and the season is over. Win, and they push the Aces into a decisive Game 5. But after what we just saw in Game 3, that road looks steep. The Fever weren't just beaten physically, they were drained emotionally. When Vegas tightened its grip late in the game, Indiana's body language told a story. Hands on knees, shoulders slumped, defensive rotations late by a half step. Those signs don't just reflect fatigue, they reflect doubt. And in playoff basketball, doubt is poison. Caitlin Clark's absence casts a shadow over everything, but it's not just her. Sophie Cunningham's injury removed another spark plug. Other players are banged up. By the time rotations shorten in the postseason, the Fever are already operating with fewer reliable options. That lack of depth means heavier minutes for the starters, and heavier minutes mean mistakes when it matters most. Contrast that with the Aces. Even when Aya Wilson struggled in stretches, her teammates rose to the occasion. Jackie Young controlled tempo. NaLyssa Smith played like she had a point to prove against her former team. The Aces didn't just survive Wilson's off night. They thrived because of their balance. That balance is what Indiana lacks. Another layer here is psychological. Indiana has been riding a fairy tale wave since Clark arrived, capturing national attention and selling out arenas. But for the first time, they're staring at a reality check. Without their superstar, the team's flaws are glaring. The league, the media, and fans all see it. That pressure can crush or sharpen a team. Game 4 will reveal which it is. On the flip side, the Aces have rediscovered their identity. Their early season struggles seem distant. In Game 3, they looked like a team that's been here before, because they have. Their composure under pressure, their confidence in each other, their willingness to step up in big moments. Those are the marks of a championship core. The longer-term consequences matter too. For Indiana, this postseason is about more than wins and losses. It's about proving they're a sustainable contender, not just a one-star show. If they fold without Clark, critics will say the Fever are fragile. That could impact free agency, trades, and even team morale heading into next season. Players don't want to feel like everything collapses when one person is missing. For Vegas, Game 3 reaffirmed their place as the WNBA standard. Depth, toughness, and adaptability are their calling cards. Even if they go on to win this series, the way they did it, by overwhelming Indiana late, by exposing their lack of depth, cements their reputation as a juggernaut. The WNBA itself has something to learn here. Clark's injury put the spotlight on Indiana's fragility, but it also highlighted a broader issue: star dependence. Leagues love stars because stars sell. But over-reliance on one or two players is dangerous. When they go down, the product suffers. That's why depth and development matter. The Aces are showing what happens when a team is built to withstand injuries and slumps. The Fever, meanwhile, are showing the dangers of putting too much weight on a rookie, no matter how gifted she is. Everything now boils down to the next game. For Indiana, it's survival. For Vegas, it's closure. A Fever win means momentum shifts, doubt creeps back into the Aces' minds, and the series goes the distance. A Fever loss ends their story, and crowns Vegas as a dynasty in the making. The stakes are layered. For Indiana's players, can they prove they're more than a support act? For Clark, her absence has already defined the narrative. How will her team's fate in her absence affect her legacy? For the WNBA, will this series reinforce the need to spread attention beyond one player? For fans, it's a chance to see whether this team has fight left, or whether fatigue has finally won. Backhand index pointing right, stay locked in. Part 5 looks at the bigger picture, the revolution this moment might ignite, and why this is about more than just basketball. The Aces are one win away from advancing. The Fever are one loss away from elimination. That's the reality after Game 3. But beneath the scoreboards and stat sheets lies a deeper story, about identity, resilience, and the future of the WNBA itself. Indiana is standing at a crossroads. Without Caitlin Clark, they're not the same team. That much is obvious. But this series has forced them to answer a harder question. Who are they without her? Kelsey Mitchell has shown she can be a lead scorer. Aaliyah Boston remains a dominant force in the paint. Lexi Hull has flashed defensive grit and timely shooting. Odyssey Sims has brought veteran steadiness. And yet, collectively, they haven't been able to fill the void left by Clark's absence. Game 4 will test whether these players can elevate, not just to survive but to win. If they find a way to force a Game 5, it will be remembered as a testament to their resilience. If they fall short, the narrative will become that Indiana is a one-woman team, and that's a dangerous label for any franchise. Even while sidelined, Caitlin Clark dominates the conversation. Every game, cameras pan to her on the bench. Every article mentions her injury. Every debate about the Fever begins with her name. Her absence is more than physical. It's symbolic. She's the player the league markets, the rookie who transformed ticket sales, the face of the WNBA's future. Without her, the Fever lose not just scoring but aura. And that aura matters in sports. Opponents prepare differently when Clark is on the floor. Fans cheer differently. Teammates play differently. That's why this postseason, even without her playing, is shaping her legacy. If the Fever collapse, critics will say they're nothing without her. If they fight, they'll prove they're a team worth respecting in their own right. Either way, Clark's name will be attached to the outcome. The Aces, meanwhile, are building something special. They don't just rely on Aya Wilson, even though she's the centerpiece. They've built a system where others step up when needed: Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and now NaLyssa Smith. That kind of balance is rare in the WNBA, where rosters are small and depth is often a weakness. What Vegas showed in Game 3 is that they're not just talented, they're relentless. They smelled fatigue, attacked it, and broke Indiana down possession by possession. That's the DNA of a champion. Zooming out, this series isn't just about who wins. It's about what it reveals. About Indiana, that depth can't be optional. If they want to build around Clark, they need a stronger supporting cast. About Vegas, that dynasties are built on balance, not just stars. About the WNBA, that relying too heavily on one player is a risky business model. Fans are learning this too. They came to see Caitlin Clark. But they're staying to see whether the Fever can survive, and whether the Aces can cement their dominance. That's growth for the league. For Indiana, the offseason will be critical. Do they add more shooters? Do they bolster their bench? Do they prioritize durability and depth? These aren't abstract questions. They're the difference between being a playoff team and being a championship contender. For Clark, the road ahead is about recovery, but also about responsibility. She will return, and when she does, expectations will be sky high. How she handles that weight, physically, mentally, and emotionally, will define not just her career, but potentially the league's trajectory. For Vegas, the road ahead is about legacy. If they close out this series and continue their run, they're not just champions, they're a dynasty. And dynasties elevate leagues. They create rivalries, storylines, and benchmarks for greatness. This series matters because it crystallizes the future of the WNBA. It shows what happens when a league depends too heavily on one star. It shows the importance of depth, resilience, and adaptability. And it shows the drama that makes sports worth watching. Underdogs fighting, champions rising, narratives colliding. The Fever may be shorthanded, but they're not finished yet. The Aces may be in control, but they can't take their foot off the gas. And fans, they're watching a story that will be told long after the final buzzer. So here's the road ahead. Indiana must summon every ounce of grit for Game 4. Vegas must stay disciplined and close the door. Clark must heal and prepare for a return that will define her legacy. And the WNBA must learn the lessons staring it in the face. Backhand index pointing right. If you've been with us through this journey, now's the time. Subscribe, like, and share. Because the next game isn't just about advancing to the finals. It's about rewriting the story of a league, a franchise, and its brightest star.